Hi, my name is El. Come for the coffee, stay for the championship winning methods. Today, we will be taking a look at Tetsu Kasuya's championship winning method, which he used in 2016 to win the World's Brewers Cup. This method is perfect for both beginners and seasoned brewers alike, as it offers a lot of flexibility when it comes to brewing your coffee. I use this all the time to brew my coffees, and not gonna lie, it does produce some pretty good cups. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't called this a recipe because it's not. Much like how you wouldn't call deep frying or baking or sauteing something a recipe, for me, this falls under the same category. So, enough with the chit chat, it's time to spill the beans. Let's get to brewing. This method is more commonly known as the 4-6 method or the 40-60 method, as the brew is split into two main phases. The first phase of the brew consists of 40% of the total water, and the second contains everything else. Phase 1 will determine the sweetness and acidity of your coffee. Phase 2 determines the final strength. By adjusting the amount of water poured, as well as the number of pours in these two phases, we end up with a very flexible but solid brewing method. Oh, and not to worry, it can be used with all kinds of drippers. For today's recipe, I'll be using 20 grams of coffee to 300 grams of water. That's a 1:15 ratio for those of you trying to do some quick math.
2 plus 2 is 4, minus 1, that's 3, quick maths.
You're going to want to grind your coffee about the coarseness of kosher salt. Any coarser and you'll have under-extracted coffee. Any finer and the filter paper may clog, or you may end up with a cup that's over-extracted and more bitter than your ex-wife. On my Wilfer, I find that one mark to the right of its filter setting works just fine. This phase consists of 2 pours and contains 40% of the total water. For this recipe, that's a total of 120 grams. For today's brew, I'll be using Timor's Crystal Eye. I usually give it a quick rinse under the tap first, as I find that it helps keep the paper in place. I then give it another rinse with hot water to preheat the cone. I usually use water that's 95 degrees, but if you're using a regular kettle, just let your water cool for about a minute after reaching a boil before brewing. Once that's done, pour out your water from your brewing vessel and pour your ground coffee into the cone. Make a little well in the middle and we can begin brewing. Now, this first pour will determine the sweetness and the acidity of the cup. If you want to have a sweeter cup, you want to have a smaller first pour. If you prefer it a bit more acidic, then just increase the amount of water poured here. If this is your first time, I recommend starting with 60 grams of water here, so you have a baseline understanding of the coffee this method produces. Pour in your water, doing your best to wet all the grounds. You want to pour in a circular motion, starting in the middle and slowly moving outwards. Give it a swirl and let it bloom for about 40 to 45 seconds. I find that swirling it here helps evenly wet most of the ground coffee. Once you hit the 45-second mark, pour in the remaining water, bringing your total to 120 grams. This time we won't be swirling the coffee. Instead, we're gonna let gravity do its thing and let the water draw down. This phase will determine how strong your coffee is. The more pours you do here, the stronger your coffee will be. As a baseline, I also recommend splitting this into pours of 60 grams, giving you a total of 5 pours throughout your brew. Each drawdown should take about 30 seconds. Once your last 60 grams have gone in, give the cone a swirl once clockwise, and then once anti-clockwise to knock off any bits that may be stuck to the sides of the cone. Let it draw down completely and you should be left with a nice flat bed of ground coffee. Your total brew time should be about 3 to 3.5 minutes. If it takes longer than that, then you'll just have to grind a bit coarser for your next cup. That being said, if you like the cup of coffee that you just brewed, then you can keep to your current settings. Once you're done brewing, I always recommend stirring your coffee. You can use a spoon or just give it a swirl just like this. All that's left is to pour it out and to enjoy your freshly brewed cup of coffee. And there you have it, how to brew coffee using the 4-6 method or the 40-60 method, whichever you're more comfortable with. As for me, my first phase is usually split into 2 pours of 40 grams and 70 grams for a bit more sweetness. I find that anything less than 40 grams just isn't enough water to fully wet the grounds. My second phase is split into 4 pours of 45 grams each, which gives me a slightly stronger cup. I also usually use the Hario V60 as I find that the coffee it produces using the 40-60 method tends to be a bit sweeter, a bit clearer, and just a bit juicier, which is something I really enjoy. If all those words sounded a bit foreign to you, well, just know it brews good coffee. But that's it for today, my friends. I'll see you guys and girls next week for a video just like this, or like the other videos on my channel. In the meantime, if you want to follow me on my socials, links to everything can be found in the description. Also, if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and to share the video with all your friends and family and your dog and your neighbor and everyone else. And if you haven't done so already, do consider subscribing. We're almost at 8,000 subscribers and that's the next milestone. Finally, let me know how you prefer to drink your coffee in the comments down below. But for now, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next video.